and welcome to my channel. I'm Caitlin Hill. I just want to start out by saying that I am not a medical professional. I am not giving medical advice here. I am simply sharing my own personal experience. So today I want to talk about how my pregnancy led me to be vegan. So it's a very interesting journey. I have always been leaned more towards being vegetarian my whole life. I was never like a super big meat eater to begin with, but I definitely still consume dairy and always ate seafood and chicken and those sort of things. It was more, for me, was more red meat. So basically what happened was, during my pregnancy, I started having major food aversions to dairy specifically. I started getting super turned off by the smell. It actually smelled like a cow to me, and it would taste really sour in my mouth. Whenever I would have it, the smell of it would stay on my hands. Like if I ate it and I had a piece of cheese, or I'd have a croissant or something with butter in it, the smell would actually stay on my hands. It would stay in my mouth and it would come back at me later. Like it would kind of stay in my mouth and in my body for a while afterwards. So yeah, super unappetizing. And I just basically I basically was like, okay, I don't think that I should be eating this anymore. But it still took me a really long time to get to the point where I decided to cut it out completely, because, you know, dairy products are literally in almost everything. And there was definitely a period of time where I just wouldn't have it if it was like obviously in the product that I was eating. But now, you know, I'm at the point where I have to read the ingredient label on everything, because milk products are literally in so many different things that you wouldn't even expect. I finally got to that point of checking and seeing everything. So it started off with me being like, okay, I can't do this anymore. And with eating meat, it just started to really, I wasn't into eating. I became, also during my pregnancy, I started not being into eating meat anymore at all. It just felt really weird to be creating a life within me, and by eating meat, I was essentially taking the life of another mother's child. And that didn't sit well with me. So I wasn't able to continue on with that. Also with eggs, the smell of eggs really started to just not sit well with me. I was hypersensitive to, very strangely, everything that was an animal product. So then the journey kind of continued. I didn't cut everything out during my pregnancy. Things kind of evolved. And then after I had my daughter, and I started breastfeeding, I started a whole other level of reasons why dairy was not, why dairy just was not working for me anymore. With breastfeeding, I started to think about how I would feel if someone was taking my milk away from me. And of course, when mothers have an abundance of milk and they donate that to other mothers who can't breastfeed, that's so incredible, so awesome. But to be pumping and having my milk stripped away from me against my will started to feel really wrong. My breast milk technically should be just for my baby and for my child. And I started to think about how dairy cows are literally artificially inseminated, made to be pregnant over and over again. So they're constantly lactating and producing milk so that humans can drink it. Which just did not sit well with me. And, you know, I think it probably started, you know, it obviously was started as survival back in the day, because it is, a mother's milk is so nutrient dense. It's filled with so many calories, so much nutrients. And back in the day, it was used for survival mode. That was a food source, and that was survival. So people obviously would survive on that. But now it's been taken to a whole other extent, where literally, if you go to the store and you start reading the ingredient labels on things, milk products, dairy is in almost everything. Like, I'm telling you, things that you wouldn't even think would have dairy in them have dairy in them. So it is an abused system. Like I said, just wasn't sitting well with me, and I was feeling like I wasn't able to continue. My body was saying no, and my mind was saying no, my heart was saying no to it, and it was something that I just did not want to be a part of my diet anymore. So it took me a while to get to that point. I continued to have it in things like if I was to have a cookie or something where it was like baked into it and I wouldn't see it and I wouldn't really know it was in there, it actually started to come back at me as well. I could still have that dairy cow sour smell on my fingers. And my partner just said, "Why are you still eating it if it bothers you so much?" Ding, ding, ding. Okay, yeah, I need to cut it out of my diet. Like, this is not working for me anymore. And then, like I said, with meat, it just didn't feel right to me. Every bite that I would take, I would be thinking about what I was eating, and it just felt, like I said, felt weird to be creating a life and eating someone else's life at the same time. Just, again, wasn't working for me. And so yeah, even after my daughter was born, I still continued. When she started having solid foods, it was really interesting that our naturopath actually said to us, the #1 food that I wouldn't give her is dairy. I again found that very interesting, because I had just spent my whole pregnancy was confirming that my body did not want to be ingesting dairy. So I found that very interesting that she confirmed that as well. And then, you know, it was just kind of evolved, because then my partner, he had never even had the thought in his head to not eat animal products. It was never something he had ever thought about. So one day I had decided to become vegan on my own. I guess my daughter was about a year old, so it still took me a while to fully be like, okay, I can't do this anymore, and fully listen to my truth about how I was feeling. So yeah, my daughter was about a year old, and I finally came out and said, you know, I can't do this anymore. I can't be eating animal products anymore. It's just not sitting well with me. So I decided to do that on my own. My partner and I, a lot of our life revolves around meals and cooking food together and eating together. So it was a big step for me to do that. And then, you know, I didn't want to push him into it, especially because he wasn't feeling the same way that I was. So then I just said to him, you know, one day I just said, why don't we watch a movie together on veganism? So we started watching, we watched Game Changers together, and I gotta say, it was quite the game changer for him. He was like, wow, okay, I didn't know all that stuff. It's not all common knowledge. So oh my God, there's a truck going by that says eggs, natural and delicious. BC fresh eggs get cracking right outside my window. How funny is that? So then we watched that movie, and I said, why don't you just try it? Just try not eating animal products for a couple weeks and see how you feel. So I didn't need to convince him very much. He was totally into it. Started eating, cut out animal products. We started eating a complete plant-based diet together. And then he started doing his own research. There's so much information out there about being vegan now. And so he did his own research on it, and he was like, okay, that's it. I'm convinced I don't need to do this anymore. I don't need this for survival. You know, we're not in survival mode. There's so many alternatives out there. And he was like, I don't want Safi eating meat and dairy anymore either. And I was like, yay. So yeah, so that started, which was amazing. And now we're all together, you know, all 3 of us eat plant-based. I've been doing it for almost a year now completely, and he's been doing it for about 6 or 7 months. So so yeah, it's definitely been a journey to get where we are now, and I gotta say, I feel better than ever. I feel at peace with myself, with my place on the planet. Obviously, climate change is a huge factor, and was another thing that was coming up for me after I had Safia, my daughter. I was feeling really stressed out about the state of the planet. The earth is, you know, obviously heating up faster than we even feel. And I was starting to feel really stressed out about that. And the only way that I could really feel like I was contributing was by not eating meat and dairy, which is a huge contributor to climate change. So that was pretty massive, a massive shift. I definitely feel so much more at peace about where I am on this planet, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, health-wise, and for just the greater good of the planet. I think the number one thing that I want, if you were to take anything away from my experience and anything away from this video, is that the most important thing in life in general, especially for mothers, is trust your intuition. Listen to that intuition, listen to that inner voice, because my body was telling me something and I was refusing to listen to it for a while. And just choosing to kind of go along with, you know, it's really hard to cut all those things out and blah, blah, blah. But the most important thing, I think we're so quick to Google how we're feeling about something. And hello. Hi. Hey. Hello. Do you want to come say hi? You want to come say hi? Hi. Hi. Did you have a good time?
There's a big truck.
There's a big truck down there. You're right.
Big truck.
So, as I was saying, I feel like we're so quick to Google how we're feeling, Google what's right and wrong, and get our validation from Google and the internet nowadays, that I think we lose sight of our own personal Google, our own inner Google, our own inner intuition about what about what feels right.
Look,
and
it's a big truck.
I know it's a big truck. And I think we've lost sight of that.
Oh, there's a crow.
There's a crow. And it's really important to tune into how you're feeling on the inside. And I think when we're pregnant, we're so in tune with how our bodies are feeling. With how our bodies are feeling.
Mama.
And so, yeah. If you can take anything away from this video, please trust your intuition. Please trust your inner Google.
It's Safia.
It's Safia. Obviously, I'm gonna get going here. It's Safia. And please subscribe, comment, and like. And I hope that this sparks a conversation in you, and that it inspires you to listen to what your body is telling you. And
It's Safia.
and
It's Safia.
live your best life ever. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Can you say bye?